This is Stuart Burrell, host of Sustaining Your Coalition Roadmaps for Success. This is Module 5. We here at the Center for Appalachian Philanthropy would like to welcome you. This is to tell you a little bit about myself. If you don't know, I have a strong background in nonprofit management and sustainability and do consulting for a number of our coalitions and other organizations. So today's topic is program evaluation, which, as we all know, particularly in the health care section, in the public health section, is extremely important. Before we get too much into that, I want to just review our previous modules, which are all available on our YouTube channel or also available via Facebook, and you can always just email us and let us know. Let's apologize. Okay. The goal for today is to learn the basics and importance of conducting program evaluation. What is sustainability? Well, it really comes down to this. It's everything a program needs to keep going over time. Our work is too important to stop. Our communities need the help we're providing, and the programs we're creating way too much to let a hiccup in the road derail us. So we need to create programs that keep going, that are sustainable. Why sustainability? Well, because the work we're doing is too important not to be. And ultimately, it means sustainability means having the time, talent, and treasure to achieve the broad objectives, not just programs are how we achieve oftentimes individual activities, but what are those activities doing to support the broad changes that we need to see, like reduced obesity rate, reduced diabetes rate particularly. So again, Module 1 was about partnerships, and those are really the connection between the program, your program, and the community, and developing partnerships is what a coalition is. It's partners. So that's extremely important, and we talked about a number of different ways of developing partners and reviewing the partners you have to strengthen your relationships. Module 2 was about political support and really developing political support and understanding why policy change is important to coalition sustainability, what you need to do to engage politicians, why you need a champion, and the role of a champion. Module 3 was about organizational capacity, and that's we reviewed the resources required for organizational capacity. What do you need to, well, really to keep the organization going? What capacity do you have to have in there? Are the vision, mission, goals aligned with the program? Do you have the infrastructure and the leadership and the staff and volunteers to implement and make it happen? Strategic planning was Module 4, and we reviewed the resources required for organizational capacity. So strategic planning is your plan for success, and a strategic plan is a financial plan and vice versa. So we also reviewed our strengths, opportunities, challenges model for looking at your strategic plan and evaluating it and expanding it. Today, our module is program evaluation. Program evaluation is a systematic process to understand what a program does and how well the program does it. Evaluation is a systematic process to understand what a program does and how well the program does it. That is that is a direct quote from Building Our Understanding Key Concepts of Evaluation, which is published by the CDC's Health Communities Program. That document, and you see the link on the link to the PDF is here, is what this whole presentation is based on. You know, to give credit to it to cite it as a source is an understatement. It is the main source for this. It's also just a great tool. We strongly recommend you read it and review it. So it's a chance to take some time, sit down and read it. It's not that long. It's 7 pages plus 2 pages of how-to. Why evaluate? Well, we evaluate to decide what needs to be done. Evaluation begins, when done right, begins before our programs even happen. Evaluation starts in the planning stages and is a tool to decide what needs to be done. Then we use evaluation to understand what happened and why it happened. Knowing why it happened is just as important as what happened so that we can repeat it and improve. And ultimately, evaluation is about improving what we're doing. How do we make it more successful, more effective, reach more people? Again, it goes right back to the work we're doing is frankly just too important to only help a few people. We need to improve, to make dramatic improvements to our community, and to do that, we need to understand what our programs are doing so we can expand them and learn from each other and be more successful. Evaluation is about evidence, and evidence is, again, quoting from Building Understanding, Key Concepts of Evaluation, information helpful in forming a conclusion or a judgment. In other words, evidence means information bearing on whether a belief or a proposition is true or false. Is it valid or invalid? Is it warranted or unsupported? And for evidence, think of the scientific, think of a scientific viewpoint of it. Think of it, evidence as, does it support the hypotheses? Evidence from the scientific viewpoint. So, I want to look at when to evaluate. Well, you have to, for evaluation to be successful, make it part of the program, of your program, from the very beginning. Evaluation is one of the first things you need to talk about, not just what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, but evaluation fits right into that, so you know what you did and you know how you're doing it. So if you can't evaluate it, how do you know what you did? If you can't prove it, it didn't happen. And often, or at least often, that's the view of others. How do you got to prove what you did, and you do that through evaluation. The evaluation experience is more positive and the results are more useful when you build it right into things from the beginning. Again, slapping it on at the end just doesn't work so well. Then it's, oh, why do I have to go through this one more step, one more thing? Fill out the form at the end of the program. If you don't have a form from the beginning, how do you measure change? Well, you can't effectively. So that's just one tool for evaluating things. Evaluation works best when it's ongoing activity. It's not just a start, stop, one time here, one time there. Use evaluation to improve your program and refine it, and then review the changes you've made and refine it again. And it's that process of continuous improvement. And evaluation is a process, not an event. Just again and again, think that. There are two types of evaluation. There's formative evaluations. They are conducted during program development and implementation. They provide direction on how to achieve goals and how to improve your programs. So really there's the first part of evaluation. Summative evaluations are best completed when your programs are well established and they tell you to what extent you're achieving your goals. So formative evaluation is going to help you refine your anti-obesity program, and a summative evaluation is going to help you look 2 years from now whether or not you actually lowered obesity rates in the county. So there's a couple types of formative evaluation. The first is a needs assessment. A needs assessment determines who needs the program intervention, how great is that need, and what can best be done to meet that need. A needs assessment involves audience research and informs audience segmentation and marketing strategies using the four Ps, which is straight from marketing terminology. And the 4 Ps are product or service, place, price or value, and promotion. So that's one way to think about dividing up your audience and targeting things based upon the values and based upon those specific concepts and ideas. The other formative evaluation is a process evaluation. You're measuring the effort and direct outputs of programs and interventions. What and how much was accomplished, i.e., what was the exposure, what was the reach, what was the knowledge change, what was the attitude change. You're measuring fairly direct, small quantities of, it changed from A to B. People now have a better understanding of the need for reducing fat in their diet and how to do it. A small tool, why they should use olive oil instead of lard, for example. A process evaluation examines the process of implementing a communications program and intervention and determines whether it's working as planned. It's particularly valuable with communications program. You use process evaluation to determine is what you're doing working like you thought it would. You can do process as continuous, and again, evaluation should be continuous when you can, or as a one-time assessment. Results are used to improve the program. And so you're taking the process evaluation and you're going through and using it to, again, you're evaluating your process and refining it. You're evaluating process and program and refining it. There are two types of summative evaluation. The first is an outcome evaluation. This measures effects and changes that result from the campaign. You're investigating to what extent a communication program intervention is achieving outcomes in the targeted population. You're measuring short and medium-term change that results directly from program behavior, such as changes in knowledge, attitude, belief, and behavior. And I have a chart there. We have a chart and just a couple slides that also helps explain this better. But a summative evaluation, it's a summary. The outcome, what happened at the end. Usually a summative evaluation is done at the end, so it's not something you can use as extensively to change the program while you're ongoing. That is a formative, while you're forming the program. So, summative also measures policy change. Now then, there is the impact evaluation. And this is really measuring the big picture. You're talking about measuring community level change or long-term results. Are we decreasing disease risk? Is the, over 5 years, are we lowering or not rising, slowing the rise of the diabetes rate in a county or a region? Is mortality rate improving? These are big picture items. These are often measured, at county level. They're measured by CDC, census. Think of it includes census statistics. That kind of changes in impact evaluation. The impacts are the net effect. Typically, you're measuring impacts on not just on a handful of people, but on an entire school, a community, entire community, an organization, society, or environment. It's a big measurement of it. You're measuring the result from a big group. It's a big picture thing, and this is measuring a big picture, like improving county health rankings or lowering the rate of diabetes. If you want to improve your county health rankings, that is part of an impact evaluation. The county health ranking is an impact evaluation. It's a big picture ranking, looking at a sizable area, a county usually, and looking at big picture things, the rate of diabetes, not just are these 10 people eating healthier. Are we lowering the rate of diabetes? Are we lowering the smoking rate? That's an impact evaluation. This diagram is from building our understanding key concepts of evaluation. And so if you want to, there's perhaps a clearer version in there. It's pulled right out of that. And again, we're looking at program stage will help determine our evaluation type. The question asked will determine the evaluation type. So it in many ways moves from formative to summative, from before the program begins to when the program is mature or has ended after a significant period of time. So you can see, again, evaluation 2 is process, and this is process, it's flowchart. You're moving from one type of evaluation to another over time. And you can have multiple evaluations going on at the same time. How do we conduct an evaluation? Well, there are 6 steps that have been identified. Step 1 is to engage our stakeholders. Step 2 is to identify the program elements we're going to monitor. What are we going to look at? And then how are we going to, step 3 is selecting the evaluation questions. How are we going, what questions are we going to use to monitor those elements, to look at that information we want to know, to pull that information out. We're going to determine how the data will be gathered. This can be, for example, surveys, handouts, telephone calls. You can often, surveys are a key way to gather data. You could also, get people to physically weigh themselves or weigh them or chart their A1C over time. You get into how are you going to gather the data? So step 5 is developing a data analysis plan and reporting it. All right, we've got all this great data, and sometimes this is where, personally, I've seen it can be easy to falter a little bit here. So we gather all the data, we know it's important to get the data, we know what we want to know. Now, how are we going to analyze that? How do we take all that data and do something with it to yield a result, a number, and then report that? So we don't just want to have people fill out the surveys. That alone isn't just an evaluation. That's part of an evaluation. We need to know what they say together. What is the data all together, and so we can analyze it and report it. And then we want to know, once we've got that data and we're looking at, we've reported it, we've got that plan, how do we make sure this gets used? We've gone at this point to a lot of work to learn a lot of effort, a lot of time, and often money has been put in to figure out what works or what we're doing. How do we help other people learn that? Because again, our work is too important to just keep reinventing the wheel. Step 1 is engaging stakeholders. So first we need to identify our stakeholders and then engage them. And these are the individuals who have an interest in the evaluation. It is usually your volunteers, your employees, your funders are always a stakeholder. It's local politicians. It's people who are going to use the information. So we want to find out what they want to know and how they'll use it. One of the easy ways to do this is simply ask. Involve people who involve, your core stakeholders, involve them in designing and conducting the evaluation. When people are involved like that, they have a much better input they have a much better sense of what's going on. It's also a good resource for your evaluation. If you're working with, for example, a major funder, the CDC, for example, they have a lot like this document we've been discussing on how to do evaluation, and they can provide a lot of great input and really help you. So can if you have outside evaluators, you want to incorporate them in from the beginning. So for less involved stakeholders, keep them informed, putting them on your email listserv, sending out the press releases, just giving them updates. They don't need to be really sitting there at the table designing it, reviewing and inputting the data in its raw form. But you want to keep people informed about what's going on and what you're starting to see. So, step 2 is identifying what you're going to monitor. At this point, the team decides, and evaluation needs to be a team effort. What should you monitor? What's the important things that are going to answer the questions? Decide which components you're going to monitor. You got to look at how it's going to be used. What resources are available is another important thing. We may want to monitor any number of things, but if we don't have a mobile lab, if we don't have a way to monitor A1C levels or blood glucose or any of these other technical things, then how are we going to monitor that? So if we don't have the resources, we can't. We need to know whether the data can be collected in a technically sound way, and most importantly, is an ethical manner. Everything we do has to be based on a strong sense of ethics. We're talking about working with people here, and we all know, well, ethics are absolutely critical. It's hard to even talk about them. They're so much of the bedrock of what we do. I will mention sometimes we're also working. You may be working with a human studies commission. If you're part of a local college, university, there may be a human subjects review board. There may be other things that you want to look for, but most importantly, be straightforward and ethical, because if you're not, it will destroy you. And it will destroy everything that everybody has worked for. So monitoring is also called process evaluation. This is, you want to monitor what you're doing. This is an ongoing effort that tracks variables such as funding received, products and services delivered, payments made, other resources contributed. It's up. And this continues on to the next slide. Are you spending what you thought? Are you on your budget? Perhaps most importantly, are you adhering to your timeline? That's a very important thing to monitor. And all of us know how we can get off timelines and have things go a little astray. So we want to keep our stakeholders informed about our timelines too, so they don't have unrealistic expectations, or they understand why we're not meeting timelines. Monitoring a program during implementation will let you know whether it's on time and whether it's going as planned and how well you're reaching that audience. With this, you can also make mid-course corrections, tweak it to see that that's why you can tweak it to see what you're doing. All right, step 3 is selecting the key evaluation questions. Basic evaluation questions should be adapted to your program content, include what will be evaluated. So what's the program? What context does it exist? Was fidelity to the intervention plan maintained? Did you stick to your plan? Were your exposure levels adequate to make a measurable difference? So if you're doing a media campaign, if people just hear your message once, they're not adequate. Do they hear the message enough time? Do they come to enough cooking classes to turn this from habit into lifestyle, to turn it from event to habit to lifestyle? And that's one of those really important things. We want to change lifestyle, so we need to have an adequate exposure level. What aspects of the program will be considered when judging performance? Again, how are you going to decide success? So what standards must be reached for a program to be considered successful? And here you want to set realistic goals, but that's an important part of your evaluation question, is how are you deciding success? What evidence will be used to indicate how the program has performed? How will the lessons learned from this inquiry be used to improve public health effectiveness? So again, this is all process, and a lot of these steps kind of intermingle, but we can break it down and go from there. Step 4 is determining how information will be gathered. In this step, you and the team must decide how to gather things. Decide which information sources and methods will be used. So developing the right research design for the situation at hand is very important. And there are many options. Typical choices include experimental designs, such as using random groups to create intervention and control groups. This might be similar to the kind of double-blind studies you see with drugs or other things. You know, you help one group and you don't help the other group, the placebo effect. That's not one we're going to use as much with our programs because we want to get the program out to everybody, but it's one of those really important experiment tools. Quasi-experimental designs, so maybe you're not randomly assigning people to groups, but you're still going on that idea. Surveys are, again, a tool we've talked about a lot. And you're getting a quick snapshot of a quick cross-sectional snapshot of an individual or group of people that you measure in some way. Number 4 is case study designs, where an individual or a situation is investigated deeply and considered substantially unique. Case studies are also great for telling your story. You can, you know, delve into one person, one organization, one result, one group, and really spend some time delving into how and why you got the results you did. And then use this as you go out there and disseminate your information, particularly with the public. A story, a case study, it helps you tell your story. It helps so-and-so do such and such, and here's why, with direct quotes. It helps us often, case studies help us connect directly to individuals, directly to people. So the choice of your design will determine what will count as evidence. Obviously, if you're doing a case study, then double-blind research study, you know, groups just won't work. It also determines what kind of claims you can make. So now we're on to step 5. Develop a data analysis and reporting plan. During this step, you and your team determine how the data will be analyzed, how the results will be summarized, how the results will be interpreted, how they will be disseminated, such as press releases. How will those results be used to improve program implementation? Are we going to have weekly review sessions? You know, when are we going to review the data and go back and make the tweaks to our program? It's going to be at the end, and we do it for next year. You know, you need to sit down and come up with a formal plan for that so you can stick to it, and you're not just kind of going, oh, well, we should, you know, do this now. Well, if you come up with a plan ahead of time, it's going to be a lot easier. Step 6. We want to ensure the use and share the lessons learned. So effective evaluation requires time, effort, and resources. Let's get the most bang for our buck out of these. Given this investment, it's critical that these findings be disseminated appropriately and that we use them to inform decision-making and action. So once again, key stakeholders provide critical information about this, about the form, function, distribution of evaluation findings to maximize their use. You know, the county administrator is going to tell you, can tell you how he or she needs the information so that they can better make decisions. Yeah. Local business owners can tell you, you know, what will help them better make decisions. Local policymakers, again, what will help them better make decisions. Reporters can help you, you know, those in journalism can tell you what will make a better story for a newspaper, for getting the word out that way. You know, use this information, gather it, use it, share it with the CDC, and CDC can help you get the word out. Other state organizations can help you get the word out. There's several very effective programs that once somebody develops one, we're starting to replicate. Healthy Bucks, Kids Healthy Bucks is one of them. What if nobody knew about that program? What would be the benefit? It would be nowhere near as successful as it has been, and it wouldn't be nationwide like it has been. So here's the bottom line. Why do you conduct an evaluation? Well, it comes down to this: to improve your program design and implementation, to demonstrate what you've done, the program impact, how is it helping people, to show return on investment. What impact were you able to have with the time, talent, and treasure and other resources you used? What you've got a lot invested in a program, what did you do with it? And so you can learn from your actions so that you and others can be more successful. And last but not least is current and future funders require it. This will only grow. There's more and more, okay, what did our money do? Show us the results. Don't show us the money, show us what you did with it. What results did you get? It's okay sometimes to fail. Not everything's going to be as big a success. What's not okay is not learning from that and not getting better and not helping other people keep from failing and helping, it's not okay to not help others succeed. That's why we want evaluation, is to help us succeed, to help our community succeed, to help other people doing this work succeed. And that's why it's become so critically important, incorporated into everything, and it's so important. There are several program evaluation resources, and we're going to review some of those here in just a minute after the couple more slides of this PowerPoint. Regina Tipton is going to review some of the ones that we have used. The same healthy, there's an example of communications campaign evaluation. Building Our Understanding also has one in there. We have 5210 evaluations, pre and post event tests, Turtle Challenge, which is one of our most successful programs. There are various evaluation tools for it. We're going to review those here in just a couple minutes. As always, we request an assignment from you. We would like you to conduct a basic evaluation. Look at the ones we've done, the ones we've discussed here in the format, the suggestions, the resources, and conduct your own evaluation. And then share it with us. The subject is open, but share it with us so we can all learn how to better do evaluations. That's part of why we share, so we can better do evaluations, not just better do programs. These are going to be gathered. They're going to be shared through our Facebook page. They're going to be shared through our Roadmap for Success toolkit, which we're in process of developing. Please email this assignment to Regina or your local facilitator, and we also have a link of this recording we have a link to a recording of this webinar on that page. If you have questions, please send them to us. If you have suggestions, again, this is part of our evaluation is incorporated into this very program. You will be emailed a survey in 1 to 2 weeks. Please complete it, as these are reviewed by Ohio University, who is our outside evaluator, and the results are submitted to the CDC. They want to know that this program is effective and what can be better done to what the results are, how many people are participating, what can better be done to improve it. We want to know this too. Everybody wants to know this, and since we've just talked about the importance of evaluation, you get why we need to know it, hopefully. Again, questions or suggestions, please contact us. Our next webinar, Module 6, will be on September 23rd. We'll be discussing funding. Part 1 will be funding as a 2-part webinar. We're going to have 2 webinars on it, one in October following this. And Part 1 is about the value of time and talent. We're going to use our time, talent, and treasure model. We're using that. We're going to learn how coalitions can estimate the value of time donated to their organizations and ways to use this. Most organizations have a lot more dollar value given to them than they realize because time is money. So using the idea of time as money, we're going to talk about how to put the dollar amount on it, and then you can use that information for, well, as part of evaluation, but also, what did our partners donate? That's an important part of how much our partners value it for looking at evaluation. But also as you're pursuing grants and whatnot, it counts as a match. It can count as a match. I'm going to turn things over now to Regina, who's going to jump back and review a couple of our program evaluation resources. Are there any questions?
Sorry, I had a little issue with the computer there. Okay, Stuart, do you have those forms up and ready on your computer for me?
Oh, I thought you were going to have them on yours. I can pull them up.
Yes. Well, the first one that we're going to look over, the 5210 evaluation, just so that you are aware if you've not seen it before, is from It's okay. It's from the YMCA, and it's based upon the thought that everybody should get 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, less than 2 hours of screen time, 1 hour of physical activity, and no extra sugar. That's that one. One of the ones that Stuart's going to be popping up for you will also be our coalition capacity roster. But if we go back, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself with the 5210 form, it can be used for a couple of different things. One, it can be used for as an awareness tool for individuals to kind of realize, okay, well, maybe I'm not getting as much fruit and vegetables as I had thought, or, oh, wow, I really am watching more TV than I had anticipated. It can also be used, especially if you're doing extended education sessions, such as like a multi-week education. If you start it with the first one and then the last one and finish it with the last one, you can kind of gauge the individual's progress towards making a habitual change in their lifestyle. So, for someone to go from getting no fruits and vegetables to maybe eating 1 or 2 servings a day is extremely, and it's a pretty good outcome. All right, now the first one he has up here is our coalition capacity. And what this one does is it kind of gives us an idea of where our coalition members are situated throughout the community. And we use this for all 10 of our counties that we have a reach into. And the first column you see is the member name. The second one is the type of member, whether they are a coalition-only member, whether they are a church health team member, which we do reach out to health teams through our faith-based activities, but they can also be members of the coalition. So that's where you see is the third is both. So we kind of like to keep track of, where our membership is strongest. The next one is status, whether the individual is active, inactive, and unfortunately we have had a few pass away here the last few years, so deceased is on there. And the most important piece of it, I feel, is the position within the community. We try to have this done within our coalitions a couple times a year just so that they can kind of see where recruitment in what sectors needs to be done. So the first one is like a concerned citizen, healthcare professional, public health professionals, community organization, social service agency, government or elected official, educators or school personnel, church minister, law enforcement and corrections, business workplace, extension service, and then others as can be specified. And through the last couple years, we have kind of found, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 coalitions, that government and elected officials are very rare to participate. I know Scioto County has a very strong showing with our elected officials. We do have a city council member on ours. We also have one of our state representatives who is a local physician down here and has helped further our message of health and wellness throughout the capital, which is wonderful. The other place that it is very low participation is in the law enforcement and corrections. So that one is a little bit more difficult. We have not we don't have a whole lot of participation here in Sauter County, and most of our other counties do not as well. So reaching out to them tends to be a little bit trickier, and if we can figure that out, we will be sure to spread the word with everybody. And then the other low-hanging fruit that we feel is the educator and school professional personnel. Our teachers are so overworked, and so are our school nurses. So we are, again, trying to figure out a strategy to include them as more, and as soon as we figure that out, we will do that. Now, the next form I believe Stuart has pulled up is our event form. And this is the form that we utilize within our main office to kind of help get an idea of what activities are going on. This was created in conjunction with the Ohio University, who happens to be our evaluation team. And you can kind of see that we have quite a bit going on. Up in the top corner, that's too small. We have the designation of coalition event or church event, because we do work both. And it kind of lets us know what county, who's completing it, and the event leader. And then we have credentials on there as well. So, for example, if somebody has their master's degree, or if they are an RN, a nurse, kind of gives a little bit more validity to the message that they are sending. Not that anybody else, say if a nurse did educate somebody on how to distribute a program, they're just as credible. But per our evaluation team, we have that on there. Our event form also has on there whether it's a single time event or if it's a multi-session program, and kind of goes into a little bit more on participation as to how many people are returning, so that we can kind of see if people are getting the message, like Stuart said, multiple times, to help create more than just, one time and you're done, but you're helping them really gravitate towards, let's make this a habit. Let's make this a lifestyle choice.
I'm going to let me add real quick that is also, I think, a key metric to determine whether or not the people participating find value. If people are not coming back, the question is why? You need to stop and ask them, why do you need to change the day you're doing it? Do they just not get anything out of it? If people are coming back, then you're doing something right. But if they're not coming back, you need to really consider what you need to change.
Yeah, and ideally we'd like to see more multi-session programs than single-time individual events. Do you get the message out at the single events? Yes, but you're more likely you want to use the single events to recruit people into your multi-session programs so that they can get the message more often. So that's one of the ways that we kind of look at that as well. Event summary, whether did you use the APAFIL or /curriculum guidelines, depending upon whether it's an APAFIL program such as the Turtle Challenge, or if it's a curriculum-based program such as the diabetes education through the University of Kentucky that the counties in Kentucky use. And you can kind of see which programs were used there, and then you can kind of denote if you didn't follow the program, why or why not. That lets us know, okay, whether changes or modifications need to be made or notes for a specific population, because we want everything to be culturally sensitive, and we also want everybody to be able to get the information. What do you feel was accomplished? What was the primary purpose of the event? Typically it's to improve nutrition, physical activity. And then if we go down, did you evaluate the event in any way? Now, this is just a form kind of telling us exactly what's going on within the program. It by no means tells us how the event staff felt about the program or the participants. So it's always good to do a participation evaluation. Doesn't have to be very hard, 1 to 3 anywhere between 1 to 5 questions. And it can be as simple, did you feel that this program was successful? 1 being the least successful and 5 being, it's wonderful. And then, these little anecdotes of what would you change the next time are also very much important. So, we put a lot of stock in our numerical data, but getting things like what would you change about the event next time is that qualitative data that helps improve the programs and makes the programs better in the future. So even if you have a successful program, you can always still see things in areas for improvement. And then if you kind of scroll down to the rest.
I would add that a lot of times successful evaluation is both qualitative and quantitative. We need the anecdotes, we need the information of the people and what they see, as well as the numbers. So it truly is a mix of both. Don't just concentrate on numbers. Ask open-ended questions as well as rating questions.
Exactly.
So you want both.
Exactly. And then the final piece of this, and the final piece of it is just for, say you are the coalition or the organization, and this is coming back into you. There's a couple of spots in here that you can kind of designate, what the program is and how it was used. And again, a lot of this was kind of devised based upon our need through the evaluation of our CDC Vulnerable Populations grant. So, and it also kind of lays it out for the individuals as to, okay, what do I need to attach with this when I send it in to be evaluated? I need the event roster, sign-in sheet, the program evaluation forms, and then any receipts for costs that are associated with that. So, by no means is this the only form that you could use. You can take this and modify it for your needs. Like I said, we do have a lot of information on here to kind of based upon suggestions from our high university evaluation team. But you can also find a lot of these evaluations online to kind of help you figure out what's going to be best for your program. And by all means, give Stuart or I a call as well, an email, and we're more than happy to help you devise an evaluation form that's going to work best for you.
And one way I've used this, as I'm both the sustainability coach as well as a facilitator for two of the counties here in Southwest Virginia where I live, is I will often ask a couple different people to fill one of these out. I will fill one out if I've been to the event, and then ask one of the coalition leaders of the event to fill one out. And I think that will give you, particularly for getting some of those qualitative answers, you will get a sense of different perspectives of what did they see that I didn't, or what did I see that they didn't, and that is just one more way of gathering data that can be used to improve and really tell you about what's going on. And that's why evaluation, you want to get multiple perspectives, so that diverse perspectives give you more information to improve.
Exactly.
So I'm going to close this out.
Yep.
And closing this one out. And this is the document that we've referenced so many times. It's 9 pages. Please go read it. It's great. So I am going to skip down to one of the later pages to just point out, it's got lots of documentation, but it's nice that it's still readable. So here's an evaluation plan worksheet that you can use to sit down and go through creating your evaluation plan. Just work right through this. The steps are here. You can go use it. It's a great tool. It reminds you of the questions that you need to ask or consider. So there's one more evaluation tool as part of this, and it's nice that they include that. The final one is looking at, and I'll let Regina talk about this, is our Turtle Challenge registration.
Yeah. What we've done with our Turtle Challenge registration, which is going on in Sauter County right now, is it's our way of collecting some data with one form. Obviously getting the registrants, first name, last name, what team name they're on, and then any contact information, especially phone number and email address, as we do slide like weekly emails and raffles. We like to see where the team's coming from so we know which sector of our community we're reaching, whether it be a work team, church team, school team, family team, or other. And then if we go down here to our questionnaire portion of it, is you see, do you or a family member have diabetes? Because this is a diabetes disparities grant, and obviously we want to target those that do have diabetes and find out which type that they have. Another question that we ask, and I don't think, or there it is if your family member has one. And I'm sorry about that, I just repeated that. most recent height and weight, which is typically optional because, most women are very, very leery about posting what their weight is, age, blood pressure, rate, reading. And then this is where the 5210 kind of also comes into play is what is your current activity level? Are you mostly inactive, active, active every day? So we kind of gauge that. And then how tense is your activity? The great thing about this is this is also, for the most part, the post-test. So we get this information again at the very end, and we hope to see that is your current physical activity level improving. And the same thing with the intensity, because we look at overall minutes, not so much steps. So has been a very successful program, and we also do an end of program, overall satisfaction questionnaire with this too, and it's pretty basic. It's typically done through email, online surveys, and then also your evaluation and post summary. So, and this gives a little bit more, do you plan on to continue to be active, which a good portion of people do. Would you be interested in additional challenges in the future? And then you can kind of see here, as Stuart has pulled up, is the log sheet.
And one thing to think about as you design these questions, as you think about them, is sometimes it's good to use questions that prod activity and reinforce your program goals as well. Not just asking the question for the information, but asking the question to serve as a reminder and polite suggestion to continue doing. For example, are you using this information? Or what's your favorite piece? We'll get them to think about the information. So evaluation forms are also part of advancing your program goals. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's a log sheet. Again, pretty simple.
Yeah, and that's sent in weekly per individual. That tells you how many minutes per week. And the idea behind the Turtle Challenge is to get 150 minutes of continuous activity throughout the week.
And I will say one thing with questions is generally keep them fairly simple. You're reaching a diverse audience that may not have an education level. Also, the more complex the question, the longer it takes to fill out, and usually the more delayed your program is, the longer it takes to fill out a form, the less you will get good responses to it. Numerically, at least, the less people will fill out the whole thing, because somebody's always struggling and they don't want to be the last one holding the program up, or they need to get going. So keeping them fairly short and fairly direct is going to ensure better participation. That is the last one we have to show you. These will be included in our resources, and again, take the ideas and tweak them as you need for your success, and then please share with us those forms so we can all learn and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We want to learn from each other. That's a big part of evaluation, is continuing to learn and improve. Thank you all for participating. I hope you found this useful. Please let us know what you think, and please fill out the survey that you will receive via email.